Well, my friends, welcome into practice. I am calling this one Releasing Perfection, and it is inspired by a poem that I will read in totality near the end of the practice. It's by Rupi Kaur. I don't know if you've read any of her poetry or been exposed to it, but I'll begin the practice with just this last little stanza of the poem, which is really the inspiration for today's practice. And she writes this. She says, I want to leave this place knowing that I did something with my body other than trying to make it look perfect. And I love that idea of doing more with your body than just trying to make it fit into somebody else's, usually, definition of what perfection looks like. And that even shows up in our yoga practice. You know, we see images on the front of yoga magazines, or we have a teacher that tells us that one particular alignment is correct and perfect for a certain pose. And the truth is there's really no perfection in this practice, at least in the way that I understand it. So we're going to really play with that idea today. We're going to start in child's pose in the back of your mat. We'll be there for just about a minute to ground in the practice. So big toes together, knees somewhat wide, arms reaching forward. Just taking a moment to settle in. I'm going to keep my head lifted just so that you can hear me clearly. But you can let yours settle onto the mat. Noticing not only how the body is showing up for the practice, but notice your experience of breathing. Maybe you begin by just noticing the pace of the breath or the locality of the breath, where you experience it most directly in the body right now. And then we typically think of the breath as having two parts, the inhale and the exhale. But as we really settle into this practice, I'm going to invite you to see if you can find a third part of the breath, which is the pause. The pause that's at the top of the inhale, and that pause that's at the bottom of the exhale. Knowing that there is no perfect breath, there is no ideal breath. Just letting the body breathe itself right now. Take 3 more breaths here in child's pose. And then on that next inhalation, let yourself drift forward to all fours. And we're going to take a semicircular cat and cow. So you'll start to drop the belly, lift the gaze, coming into your cow pose, and then sweep your rib cage in a semicircle over to the right and round up to your cat. And then reverse that, semicircle over to the right and return back down to your cow. Now go the other direction, semicircle, sweep the rib cage left and up to cat. And then semicircle, sweep left and down to cow. And so you're sweeping in these half circles up towards your cat and back down towards your cow. And just going from side to side, we'll take about 1 more of these half circles on each side. So rounding up into your cat. So we'll take quite a few side body poses today, and we are gonna do quite a bit of work in side plank. So just know that that's coming. Bringing the spine into a neutral position, we're going to take a walking cat and cow. So as you extend your right leg back, extend your left arm forward, and take this into a cow position, finding a back bend in the spine, and then hand down, knee down, round up into your cat. And then switch, left leg back, right arm forward. This is your cow. And then hand down, knee down, round to cat. So we're walking our cat and cow, making it a little bit bigger. Particularly the cow back bending becomes this full body spectrum. Take 1 more each direction. And rounding. And one last time. And rounding. Finding a neutral spine, just the right leg comes back and up. Take your left shin, spin it out like a kickstand, and start to open up into a supported side plank. Right arm towards the ceiling, right foot is flexed. You might imagine the palm of my hand on the sole of your right foot and energetically push your right leg into my imaginary hand. Take 1 more breath here. knowing you could stay here or find a bind by bending your right knee, sweeping down, finding the top of the right foot, and then pushing the foot into the hand, finding a back bend here. Really letting that right shoulder roll open so there's a sense of the heart actually pivoting upwards towards the ceiling. Take one more inhale here. And then release the bind of the foot, re-extend the leg and the arm, turn the gaze down to the mat, step your right foot to the middle of your mat with your toes facing the long edge of the mat, and straighten your left leg in a different variation of a supported side plank. As you inhale, sweep the right arm overhead and arc the body like a rainbow. As you exhale, left hip drops towards the floor, right arm reaches back. Take 3 more like that. Inhale up and over, and exhale, left hip floats down, right arm reaches back. Inhale, we contract those left obliques. Exhale, we stretch the left side body. Last time, inhale up and over. As you come down, your left hip is going to settle all the way to the mat, and as gracefully as you can, you're going to extend your left arm, bend your left elbow, and cradle the side of your head. So we're going to set up for Anantasana, side reclining balance. So I'm first going to try to create a straight line with the side of my body that's on the mat. Flexing your left foot, that gives you a little bit more balance control. And then as you're ready, lift your right foot off the mat, right hand to the right knee. Now you could stay here or take the peace fingers of your right hand, loop them around your right big toe, and start to extend that right foot up towards the ceiling. It might not fully extend, depending on your hamstring. You just go until the leg stops. And then as we take a few breaths here, notice how much the right glute, the right side of the pelvis wants to drop behind you, and gently encourage it forward. So we're really on that left side of the body. For this last couple breaths, maybe you soften the right elbow, draw that right leg closer towards that right ear. And then we're going to roll onto the belly, setting up for a series of dancing cobras. So we release the right big toe, roll onto the abdomen, hands come underneath the shoulders, and we're going to take 3 dancing cobras as you inhale, rippling through the spine, rolling up, and exhale, rolling down. Take 2 more, inhale, rolling up, exhale, rolling down. This third one, you inhale, rippling up, and then you take a very slow descent down and you try to catch yourself at the point that the spine is still elevated, but you can hover the palms. And then maintaining this, I want you to push the toenail side of your feet into the mat, activating the length of the legs a little bit more. Take 1 more in-breath here. And then you'll transition to your first downward facing dog, palms down, tucking the toes, lifting up and back, finding downward facing dog. So I would argue, as I did at the very beginning of this practice, we'll take about 5 breaths in down dog, that there really is no perfect pose. That the concept of perfection, as we tend to understand it, particularly in the Western world, doesn't really fit inside of the construct of yoga philosophy. But if you were going to carve out space for perfection in our yoga practice, the closest I could come to is that perfection in yoga is the version of the pose that meets your body with the highest degree of integrity in the present moment. We'll start this warm-up sequence on the second side by lowering the knees to the mat and immediately moving into your walking cat and cow. So left leg back, right arm up, and then rounding to your cat. And just continuing back and forth through your walking cat and cow. We'll do about 3 on each side, so 2 more each direction. So I'll say that again. If we were to carve out space for perfection in our yoga practice, I think the closest you could come to it is the degree of the pose, or the variation of the pose, 1 more each side, that most meets your body in the present moment. As you come to all fours, find that nice elongated spine. Left leg is going to come back and up. Right shin is going to spin out like a kickstand, and then you start to spin open to supported side plank, left arm up. So as we think about, okay, if you can't totally throw out perfection, what is the version of this pose that meets my body with the highest degree of integrity in the present moment? Start to bend the left knee, sweep the left hand down, finding your bind, and then letting the body move into a back bend and roll open. Beautiful chest expansion here along with a back bend. And then we gently release that with control. We transition to that different variation of supported side plank. So look down, left foot to the middle of your mat with the toes facing the long edge. Right leg extends to the back of your mat. As you inhale, left arm overhead, you arc the body like a big rainbow. Exhale, right hip droops down towards the mat, left arm reaches back. 3 more, inhale, push that left foot down. And then exhale, let that hip and pelvis stop down. Inhale, you push the foot down to arc overhead. And you droop down. Last time up and over. And then this time we, with control, come all the way onto the right side body. We walk that right hand out, cradling the right side of the head. And then we take a moment to really peek down. Am I as straight as I can possibly get in my body in this moment on the right side of my body? And then from there, I lift my left knee, left foot comes off the mat. I could kind of stay here in almost like a tree position, or I could take my peace fingers around my left big toe and just start to extend my leg as far as my hamstring will let me, which for some of us might mean that the left knee is still partially bent, because that's as far as we can go with integrity. That's our perfect pose right now. Really trying to keep that left side of the pelvis drawing forward. 1 more inhale here. And then you just, with control, release the left big toe. Let it float down. Roll onto the belly. 3 dancing cobras. Inhale, rolling up. Exhale, rolling down. Inhale, rolling up. Exhale, rippling down. This third time we ripple up and then we move down really slowly, trying to catch that point where the spinal muscles keep us upright, but the palms can actually float away from the mat. And then we feel the toenails of the feet actually pushing into the mat, so that lifts the patella, the kneecaps, away from the mat. And then downward facing dog, palms down, tuck the toes, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Knowing that even these poses that we repeat, like downward facing dog, the quote unquote perfect version of that pose will change every single time you come to it, even in a singular class. Lifting the gaze, looking forward, we'll move to the front of our space by walking or stepping the feet to the backs of the wrists, finding Uttanasana. Inhale, let's take a half lift and fold in. Sweep those arms out and all the way up. Moving into our sun salutations, take your left wrist in your right hand and lean to your right. Inhale, come up to center. We'll move the other direction. Right wrist is held by the left hand, fold to your left. Inhale, come to center, chair pose Utkatasana. We're working with the Surya Namaskaram B today. Sitting back in our chair pose, big inhale. Exhale, fold forward, Uttanasana. Inhale, half lift. Stepping back to plank pose. Inhale, coming forward, Chaturanga. Upward facing dog. Downward facing dog. We'll look forward, step the right foot in between the thumbs, spin that left heel down, circling the arms out and up. We'll take a little bit slower this first round. So often in Warrior One, you'll hear the cue of squaring the hips to the front of the mat. I'm going to actually use a little bit different language by saying squaring the hips towards the front of the mat until they naturally stop. So there's no forcefulness Take one more inhale here. We're going to take an around the world journey in the middle of our Surya Namaskaram B. So lower your left hand to the mat. You're going to pass through like a sneaky side plank here as you lift your right foot, step it behind you and flip your dog, feeling the front of the chest open up towards the ceiling. Big inhale. And then we'll go around the world in the other direction. Right palm down, right knee to chest. Either fallen triangle, right foot over to the left side of the mat, left arm up. Or if you want a big toe bind there, the left fingers could find the right big toe. Last inhale. Move through your vinyasa, stepping back to plank. Chaturanga. Up dog. Down dog. Give yourself a breath here, breathing in and out. Looking forward, stepping the left foot forward, letting that right heel rotate down, and then sweeping the arms out and up. The pelvis is moving in the direction of the front of the mat, but no forcefulness, just going into the pelvis naturally stops. That is your most perfect version of the pose right now. Inhale here. Exhale, right hand is going to come down around the world journey as we kind of pass through a hidden side plank for that left foot to come behind us, flipping open, big in-breath. And then around the world the other direction, left palm down, left knee to chest, either fallen triangle or rock star with your big toe bind. Inhale. Vinyasa of your choice, moving through. Back bend. 3 breaths, downward facing dog. I want to leave this place knowing that I did something with my body other than trying to make it look perfect. One more breath here. And out. Looking to the front of your space, walking, stepping, or hopping the feet. Nice big in-breath, half lift. Chair pose, bending the knees, sinking the hips, rising up Utkatasana. Standing to seal the practice. We'll take one more Surya B with that little around the world journey in the middle. Sweeping those arms out and up. Holding onto the left wrist, lean to the right. Inhale through center, hold the right wrist, lean to the left. Inhale to center, sink into Utkatasana chair. In breath here. Exhale, fold. In breath, half lift. If you'd like to float back, plant the palms, jumping back. Up dog. Down dog. Leading with the right foot, stepping forward, rising to Virabhadrasana 1. Breathing in fully on the inhale. Exhale, left hand comes down. Controlling that transition as there's a little sneaky side plank. Right foot behind you, like you just flipped your dog. And then right hand down, right knee to chest. Either fallen triangle or big toe bind. Inhale there. Exhale, moving through vinyasa. Option to keep that right leg lifted, 3-legged. Up, down. Pause for a breath. Breathing in. Fully aware that you're breathing out. Left foot forward, right heel down. Virabhadrasana 1, breathing in. Exhale, right palm down, controlled transition, flipping around, opening the front seam of the body, looking down, left palm down, finding your version of either fallen triangle or rock star, vinyasa, maybe 3-legged, up dog, down dog 3. Staying present with your body. The only way you can really know The right pose for your body in the moment is to be present in your body in the moment. Otherwise, you're just making assumptions. Looking to the front of the mat, walking, stepping, or lightly hopping. Half lift. Exhale, pelvis drops as you rise to Utkatasana. Stand, hands to heart center. Taking a micro meditation here as we lengthen the arms, we close the eyes, pausing for about 5 breaths. Nice time to check in with your energy. If you need to make any adjustments to your clothing or take a sip of water. Maybe see if you can find that third component of the breath once more, that pause at the top and the bottom of the breath. Just seeing if you can access the pause. We're going to move into our standing sequence, which begins with a series of balance poses, starting with either tree pose or standing half lotus, your choice. We'll begin by standing on the left leg as kind of the trunk or the standing main balancing leg. Right leg will start to lift up either to your tree, or if you have standing half lotus in your practice, the sole of the right foot smiles up towards the ceiling. I'll face the camera for just a moment so that you can see this. Sole of the foot smiling to the ceiling, right knee is opening down. Option to loop the right hand behind the back, maybe finding the left bicep. Okay, couple more breaths here. And then we're all going to transition to bonsai or standing pigeon pose. So we'll start to shift that right foot down and across the left knee like a figure 4, still pushing that right knee back and open. Everybody hands to heart center, and then we drop as if we were sitting back into a one-legged chair position. Now you control the depth of this, so you could keep it quite high, or you could really drop in low, even looping your triceps in front of your right shin. And for these last few breaths, bring your right hand to your waist. Take your left palm to the sole of your right foot and push the palm and your foot against each other, using your own force here. And maybe drop the hips a little bit deeper. One more full breath. Yeah. We're going to step back to a crescent lunge. So you'll lift the torso just enough to step that right foot all the way to the back of the mat, landing in crescent lunge. When you get there, imagine you have a high heel in that back foot. So lift the right heel a little bit and then let the left knee shift forward. Now imagine the pelvis like a bowl. I want you to think of the front rim of your pants. Lift the front rim up. Yes. And now reach the arms up. Nice, strong crescent lunge pose here. And then take the arms out wide like airplane position. Turn to face the long edge of your mat. Feet will follow you. Upright skater, left knee bent, torso drops parallel to the floor. Imagine that I come behind you and I put my fingertip right in between your shoulder blades, and I just ask you to move your shoulder blades towards my fingertip. Stay really low and skate to the back of your mat. Passing through center, straighten your left knee, bend your right. Good. One more in-breath there. Moving into warrior 3, facing the back of your mat. Sweep your left arm down, forward. You're in a lunge, and then you're going to shift forward and fly, warrior 3. 3 breaths. 2. Rising up to eagle pose. Lift the torso, left thigh over right. Right arm underneath left. Letting the breath fill the upper back. And then let your left toes find the mat so the thighs are crisscrossed. Sweep the arms out and up. Hold your right wrist with your left hand and laterally bend to your left. So it's like you're in a lateral crescent moon with your thighs crossed. Yes. One more big inhale. You're going to step your right foot back into goddess pose, facing the other long edge of your mat. So right foot steps back and out, landing in goddess position. You're facing the other long edge of your mat. And then keep your elbows parallel to the floor, but flip your forearms forward and down so that the palms of your hands are facing the wall behind you. And energetically push the palms of your hands towards that wall behind you. Option to lift both heels for 2. Last inhale. Lowering the heels, flip the forearms up, revolved high lunge. Left hand to the mat at the front of your space, right arm up, revolving your lunge. So we just went on a circular journey all the way around our mat. Sometimes that's referred to as a mandala sequence. Side plank of your choice. So left heel spins down. You could take a supported side plank, wiggling that right foot back. You could take a tree pose, right foot coming into left thigh. You could also find that half lotus position. One more big breath. Oop. And then moving through Vinyasa, stepping back, Chaturanga, up dog. And we'll take child's pose between sides, hips to heels. Give those arms and wrists a nice, well-deserved break. Recognizing that if you're feeling like that sequence was challenging, it was. You didn't make it up. It was indeed challenging. Your job is to make sure that you're rising to the level of challenge that aligns with your highest degree of integrity in the present moment, which might mean you make different choices for yourself than what I'm verbally cueing. Moving into the second side, we extend the arms forward, returning to Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. And then traveling to the front of our space, walking, stepping, or hopping. We take a nice half lift, and we fold in. And then we rise all the way to standing. And we immediately move to balancing on the second side. I'm going to face you just for the balance portion, remembering you could take tree pose, or if you have half lotus, that left leg could lift up into half lotus position. If you're in half lotus, left hand could come to waist, or if it feels good to thread it behind the spine, maybe find the bicep. If you know big toe bind, you're welcome to take it here. I'm just not offering it today, but if it's in your practice, by all means. And then maintaining control through the transition as we shift to that figure 4, left ankle over right knee, hands to heart center, and like you're sitting back into that chair. And some people like to keep the spine pretty erect here, upright. Others like to go quite deep. And then we took that addition of using our own force to amplify the effects of the pose. Left hand to the waist, right hand to the sole of the left foot, and really push the foot and the hand together. Push, push, push. And as you're pushing, deepen the pelvis. One more breath. And then you're going to step back to crescent lunge. That left foot's going to go to the back of the mat, landing in your crescent moon, or crescent lunge, pardon me. And then find that high heel on the back foot And deepen that bend in the front knee. Yes, feel the front rim of your pants lift up, and then the hands reach. Really powerful, intentional crescent moon here. And then we take that high skater position, arms coming wide, turning to face the long edge of the mat, leaning the torso forward, parallel to the floor. So strong engagement of the quadriceps on the right leg, deep stretch in the left inner thigh. And then staying really low as you skate over to the back of your mat, right leg straightens, left knee bends. Sweeping the right arm down, pivoting to face the back of your space, preparing for warrior three, launching forward and finding your flight for 3, 2. Lifting up, eagle pose, right thigh over left, left arm under right, Garudasana. Right toes step down, reaching the arms up. Hold the left wrist, lean to your right. Standing lateral bend. And then stepping that left foot out wide, goddess position, sinking the pelvis down. Whew. And then we keep the elbows elevated. We flip the forearms forward and down, like you're pushing that wall behind you. Maybe lift the heels. Yes, 2. 1 more inhale. Heels lower, forearms lift, right palm down at the front of the mat, left arm up, revolve your high lunge. Notice if your brain is already getting ahead of you and planning out your side plank. See if you can be here. Be in this pose. And then now you start to transition to whatever version of side plank you're going to work with on this side. One more in-breath, and then on the exhale, transition through your vinyasa. Up dog, down dog. We're going to immediately go to a grounded floor sequence, lowering the knees, stepping the right foot forward, Anjaneyasana, low lunge. We're going to take a couple breaths just with the fingertips on the mat, just letting the pelvis really scoop forward. Feeling the weight kind of anchored in that front foot, as well as in that back shin and the top of that back foot. And then we're going to start to move in the direction of Ekapada Raja Kapotasana 2, which is a version of pigeon pose that happens in a lunge. We're not going for the full pose today, we're just kind of moving towards it. So we'll start by walking the hands up on the right thigh. Notice when you lifted the torso, if you also lifted the pelvis, see if you can keep the pelvis heavy. Now drop the arms towards the floor, and you're going to externally rotate the whole arm so the palms face forward. So not just the wrists, the whole arm. As you start to rotate the arm, let the shoulder blades come together, lift the sternum. You can see here I start to activate the back bend in my upper thoracic, and then the back of my skull starts to just kind of draw back, like it's bracing back. I'm not dumping. And then as you do that, imagine someone has taken their fingers around your wrists and they're just gently pulling down, gently pulling the arms down. Take one more breath here. And then start to lift the head, lift the heart, pigeon pose, right foot over to the left side of the mat. Just a classic pigeon, nothing crazy or different about this one. Tail feathers lengthen back, we fold forward. Just about 3 breaths here. Interestingly, I did this practice earlier today just to kind of put it in my body so that it was already there for when I was going to lead the practice this evening. And when I did the pose that we just practiced, that moving towards Ekapada Raja Kapotasana 2, my fingertips were probably a full 2 inches above the mat. And yet when I did it just now, they both touched. Neither is better than the other. Let's start to walk the palms up. We're going to come into an open Janu Shirsasana. So drop the weight onto the right hip and turn to face that long edge of your mat. I'm just going to turn to face you so you can see this. My left leg is long. My right heel comes towards my pubic bone. And then I'm going to fold towards that extended leg in a lateral bend. And this is really not about the depth of the pose. It's really about the integrity of the side bend here. So we're really kind of honing in on the QL, the quadratus lumborum in the low back. My point in sharing that experience with that previous pose is that even in the same calendar day, my perfect, quote unquote, version of that pose was drastically different simply depending on the time of day that I did it. Look down, walk the hands in between your thighs. So you're like in between the V of your legs. Walk forward and fold. And you may notice here that the back of the left thigh and the left side of the pelvis floats away from the mat. No problem. No need to resist that. Let it happen. And so the lesson there is that the body has a different degree of practice every single time that you step on the mat. And what that really means is that we can't make assumptions about what the body can and cannot do based off of prior experience. We have to be tuned into the body in the present moment. We'll start to walk the hands in. Keep your left leg exactly as it is, but lift your right knee and cross your right foot over your left leg. You're kind of facing the back of your mat. Left arm wraps around the right knee, and then you spin the torso, twisting towards the front of your mat. Ardha Matsyendrasana A. Last inhale. Either straight to down dog, or if you want one final vinyasa, hands come forward and you step back. Either down dog or last vinyasa of the practice. And then lowering the knees to the mat, the left foot steps forward. We find that Anjaneyasana. And we take a couple of breaths, fingertips staying down, pelvis heavy. And so the deepest part of this practice is actually to be so in tune with your body that you're cueing in on the best version of the pose for you moment by moment. Walk the hands up onto the left thigh. Notice if you lifted the pelvis, reestablish that scooping down and forward. And then drop the arms and rotate externally the entire length of the arms. Feel the shoulder blades start to move towards each other on the back, sternum lifting, heart lifting. And then you start to let the upper thoracic float back, the head floats back, the pelvis is still moving down and forward as the spine moves up and back. One more breath here. And then lots of care coming out of that. That was a really deep back bend, so take your time transitioning to pigeon pose. Left foot over to the right side of the mat, right leg back. If I were bold enough to swap out a couple of the words in Rupi Kaur's poem, I might say I want to leave this practice knowing that I did something with my body other than trying to make it look perfect. Walking the hands in, turning to face the long edge of the mat so that right leg stays extended, but the right toes turn to face up towards the ceiling, left heel in towards the pubic bone. And we start with that open Janu Shirsasana, left arm overhead, folding towards the extended right leg. And see if you can really direct the breath into this bottom left quadrant of the spine, of the back. That's where the QL is located, where the obliques are situated in the side body. And really let the breath get expansive there. And then dropping the gaze, letting the hands float forward and finding that forward fold. And again, if you notice the pelvis kind of lifts on that right side and the back of the right thigh lifts, that's fine. And then final pose of the practice, Ardha Matsyendrasana A, walking up, the right leg stays the same. Left knee lifts, left foot crosses over that extended right leg. We hug in the left knee and we revolve around and find our twist. And then we take our time exiting the twist, making our way onto our backs. I'm going to stay upright for the reading as you make your way into Savasana. Legs and arms extended. If you prefer to place a blanket over the body, an eye pillow, welcome in any props. I have about 3 minutes for Savasana in today's practice. And I'm primarily hoping to give you some quiet in Savasana, but I will lead you into that quiet with a complete reading of this poem by Rupi Kaur. Give me laugh lines and wrinkles. I want proof of the jokes we shared. Engrave the lines into my face like the roots of a tree that grow deeper with each passing year. I want sunspots as souvenirs for the beaches that we laid on. I want to look like I was never afraid to let the world take me by the hand and show me what it's made of. I want to leave this place knowing that I did something with my body other than trying to make it look perfect. Without moving your body, allow deep and conscious breath to begin. And as that breath deepens, you can welcome in subtle movement through your fingers and toes, wrists and ankles. If it feels good, maybe reach the arms overhead for a full body stretch. And then in your own way and in your own time, and make your way back up to a comfortable seat. As we prepare to close this practice, take a moment to bring your hands somewhere on the body, anywhere. Give me laugh lines and wrinkles. Engrave lines into my face. I want sunspots as souvenirs. I want to leave this place knowing I did something with my body other than trying to make it look perfect. Either keeping your hands on your body as a gesture of gratitude or bringing the palms of the hands together. We close this practice knowing that perfection truly has no place in this practice. That our efforts are whole and enough. Victory to all of our practices.